Welcome, everybody, to our event, How to Love Your Divorce, a holistic guide to ending your marriage. I'm Amy Polacco. I'm a divorce and life coach. My heart has led me to this work, empowering and advocating for women. We are so happy to have Sharon Oberst-Stafala with us today. She is incredible. And I think this topic is a great one. And I know some people, I've been posting all over social media and they said, can you really love your divorce? We're going to find out how you can love your divorce. Um, a couple things about me. If you don't know me, I made lots of mistakes in not one, but two divorces and learned so much along the way. I have clients across the country, but I'm in Connecticut. Like Sharon is. And I'm a big believer that women have to be the CEO of their own divorce and really should educate themselves before deciding on a process or attorney. And I send many of my clients to Sharon. She is great. I'm also a journalist who writes about some of these topics. I had an article a couple months ago in Newsweek about why more divorced women are staying single
Hmm.
after they split. And I just launched a podcast called Girl Wake Up for all women. It's suited for our time where some of our systems are not protecting women. I believe we should all educate and protect each other. So I have guests on divorce, money, new beginnings, which is really a lot of what we're talking about tonight, and success stories. I'm going to be featuring some women, and what they've done, the amazing things they've done after divorce. So something positive can definitely come out of it. Please save your questions until the end tonight. But I want to thank Sharon for sponsoring this event. I love the fact that her website says it so perfectly that she is a divorce attorney with a heart. Right? And I often say to her, she spoke to one of my group meetings in person a few years back, and she just exudes warmth. Okay. She's been in practice as an attorney since 1992. Her clients include families, couples, and individuals, and she has helped her clients navigate all phases of life cycle events. In family law, she's helped with pre and post nuptial agreements. I think all women should have those. Divorce and separation, custody, visitation, alimony, and child support. High net worth families trust her to keep their family matters discreet and cost effective. And she brings in professionals like therapists and certified divorce financial planners as necessary. And I love the fact that you say this, Sharon. Families of more modest means can avoid the pitfalls of litigation by working with you, right? And,
Absolutely.
where's my book? I'm looking here. Many of you know I co authored this book, Framed, about some of the nightmare stories in family court. Avoid this at all costs and go to Sharon instead. Um, and she also does estate planning, right? So I love the fact that you are a Reiki master, Sharon. Is there anything you want to say before we get to some of the questions tonight?
I'm just excited to be here, Amy. I love the work you do, both directly with your clients and in forums like this, and the fact that you bring it out in your writing, that you bring it out into the world. It's just so much misinformation and disinformation, and the fact that you help women become empowered through intelligent directions like this, it's amazing. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I feel the same about you. That's why I often, tell clients there are only a few attorneys I send my clients to, and they are attorneys I know have done right by my clients, right? So, Sharon, you've been a family law attorney for over 30 years. What made you start taking a more holistic approach to divorce, would you say?
I'll make a joke and say lawyers made me do
There's truth in jokes, right?
Yeah. So when I started in family law out of law school, there was a lot of high drama. I worked as an attorney for minor children. I worked representing one spouse or another. I went to court on a regular basis. I knew every marshal in the courthouses by name, right? It was like, we're in it, we're in it, we're doing this, like this armored battle that I needed to be in for these people. And there came a time where I suddenly began to realize that the more I did that kind of work, the more I fed into that kind of work. And there was an evening in which I was home. It was 10 o'clock at night, and I'm getting a phone call from an 8-year-old girl telling me that she and her brother can't go to bed because their parents are fighting about who gets to sleep in what room. And it just, I suddenly felt as if I was not doing this family the good that I wanted to be doing for them. That I ran over there, of course, I helped them get to a solution that night. We put in emergency motions for the next week for court. Like we did all the stuff, but it suddenly had this hollow pit in the middle of it that the work I wanted to be doing for this family was being interrupted by the work I was actually doing for them. And so I have over time slowly at first pivoted, and now I do no litigation at all. And my work is only about preserving the best parts of the relationships that led to the marriage, that led to the family, and helping the divorce just be the process that it needs to be, the pivot point, there's a pop phrase decoupling, right? Because I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry, but I just want to make this
No, go
one
ahead.
point. The reason there are laws that allow there to be divorce in every state in this country and in almost every country in the world is because without divorce, people are trapped.
Hmm.
Point of a divorce, the reason divorce exists at all is to improve people's lives,
Right.
right? The spouses, the couple, the children, if they're there, the in-laws who are putting up with whatever dysfunction is happening, right? Like the whole point of divorce has never been organically to ruin people's lives. That's just what some people might call gravy.
Hmm. That's true. And we could get into a whole debate, and it's something I've written about, right? About getting rid of no fault divorce, right? And I believe it scares me because I think it could trap women in dangerous situations, right? So
And
I
historically, it has.
yeah, exactly. And all the stats show suicide has gone down with no fault divorce and all sorts of things. So, when you say you can actually love your divorce, right? I mean, that's a radical shift for many women. And what do you mean by that when you say that? Because there are some women out there like, how could I possibly love this? It's hell.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the truth is this, it's what it anything in life, but your divorce is this amazing opportunity to stop and weigh what actually matters to you. To take a new lens at the life that you may have gotten used to or may have gotten comfortable with or may be in because you think all the other options are just worse, but it's an opportunity, just like graduating college is an opportunity or going to a new resort is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to reset your mind, to change your intention, to see the world in a different way, and to presume that you can have a future that matters to you in a better way, the future that you create for yourself in a way that leaves behind what was wrong with the marriage, with the relationship itself. A lot of times somebody comes to me with a divorce and only one of the two partners thinks they want a divorce. I don't want a divorce. The divorce is what's going to be wrong. And the
What do you
the
do in that case?
well, the core of it is this: to whom would you like to be married? This person who doesn't want to be married to you? That no,
Right.
right?
Right, right, right. Right. That is exactly true. I was asked to be a guest a year or two ago, and I was on a national TV show where I was pitted against someone who was, wanting to get rid of no fault divorce, right? And so I was saying the same thing, right? So she had divorced her husband, or her husband wanted a divorce from her, right? And she didn't want a divorce. And I just thought it was so odd because who would want to trap someone in a marriage with them who doesn't really want to be there, right?
It's so sad. Some of the fact patterns I've seen in which he asked for a divorce 10 years ago. I convinced him to stay. and now we have to have a divorce because he's having an affair.
Right.
He told you. I'm sorry, but he
Right.
did. It doesn't
Right.
make him right. I'm not
Yeah,
defending
yeah,
him.
right.
But when somebody tells you what they think and when somebody tells you who they are, the adage is believe them. And it's painful to see what people are willing to contort themselves into to try and hit an ideal that may not be available in this fact pattern,
That
right?
is a great way of saying it. And that quote is Maya Angelou's quote, right? Like when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Of course, hindsight's always 2020, ladies, right? I've been guilty of not seeing it the first time myself, but I think that is great advice. And Sharon, what are the biggest differences between a traditional divorce, do you think, and a holistic or non-adversarial one?
So I honestly believe it starts right at day one. I have had couples who start a divorce with me and reconcile. I've had yesterday, I had a divorce where we finished our final papers yesterday. And when they first came to me, they couldn't be in the same room with each other. And when they spoke about each other, they were so angry, each of them like vibrated. When we finished yesterday, the three of us had a group hug. The two of them are going to go visit their daughter at college together.
Wow.
And part of why that is, in my opinion, is because I refused to ever say something bad about the other one. No
Hmm.
matter what they brought into my office, no matter as legitimate as their anger and concern and fears all are, that's that's this person's anger and fear. It's not because of, it's not outside of her or him, both conversations. And it leaves the door open for them to appreciate what's good. They were flirting with each other. Like it was just sweet, right? And they have a daughter together. They're going to wind up in rooms together for the rest of their lives. And for them to be able to just be pleasant with each other, they don't have to date, they don't have to reconcile. So I always try to keep that door open. Early on, I had a case, early on in my mediation, I had a case, college sweethearts.
Hmm.
Now their kids are in college and the two of them are divorcing. And every time I met with the husband, we stayed on track. We talked about business. And every time the wife came in, she wanted to tell me not only what's wrong with him in the past 5 years, what went wrong in the marriage, but what mistakes he made in college. Right? Like she's
Hmm.
angry. And I get
Hmm.
that. So at some point, I just kind of mentioned, I said, it's funny. He has never said one unkind thing about you to me.
Hmm.
It changed the tenor of the work, right? Like all of a sudden it wasn't about are we trying to make things blow up or we whose fault, all that stuff. It was more like, oh, right, we're gonna be each other's friend. We've been each other's friend 40 years. We're gonna be each other's friends. How are we gonna so that's where I think it starts. And then from there, um, I've had cases where I've encouraged my clients to speak with their daughter, their sister-in-law, their mother-in-law, people with whom they had an allyship before the divorce began,
Hmm.
and they're part of the holistic picture, the entire ecosystem of who you're going to know the rest of your life, whether you're warm with them or not, who your children are going to be related to. So it brings in the entire idea of it's still your ecosystem. We're just changing up some of the what the titles are, what the players mean to each other. I don't see where that's the same as a standard divorce, like from beginning to end.
Right. And obviously, I think everyone would pretty much agree, right, that this is a better option. This is better for the people involved. This saves money. This makes it go faster, it's more efficient. It's better for the children, most importantly, like that heart-wrenching case you talked about of that child calling you. But there are people who are not willing to do this, right? I just have to say that because I know that we have some people on tonight who are dealing with the high conflict spouse who is like, in my book, and you cannot get them there, right? They don't want to mediate. They start, I'm sure you do have stories where maybe it started in litigation, perhaps, and you were, or one of the spouses wanted to do litigation, but you were able to convince them to do collaborative or mediation. And will you explain what collaborative is? Because I think most people know what mediation is. I mean, maybe you could just give a cliff notes on both of them.
Yep, happy to. I just want to respond to the point you were making,
Okay,
and then I'll do collaborative
sure.
versus. Um, yes, the answer is yes. I have had people who have hired huge, well-known litigators in our area, and I've been able to bring them to a beautiful resolution without ever going to court. Yes, I've had people leave litigation and come to me for mediation. And yes, I have had very successful outcomes with case book narcissists.
Hmm.
Absolute, like angry, rough people to be around. Not 100% of the time, though. There are cases where
Right.
all they really want to do is fight, and
Yeah.
it's hard to convince one party to not engage
Yes.
necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah.
So collaborative versus mediation. Mediation tends to be either two parties and one mediator, or two parties with their attorneys and one mediator. And
Right.
so the mediator is almost in the role of faux judge. So I'll help negotiate. I won't, the mediator stays neutral, takes neither side, and helps both parties reach a resolution that might not be what a judge would have ordered, but works within the law and within the rules and for this particular family. There's a lot of creativity, room for creativity in mediation,
Hmm.
as opposed to collaborative. In collaborative, each client hires an attorney who represents, like the collaborative attorney represents the best interest of their client, as opposed to being a neutral. So
Yes.
you've got two advocates, two clients, and then there's either a neutral um, financial planner or a neutral mental health
Yes.
professional, or both. And what happens is now you have a team of three or four professionals in addition to the two clients, all in one room, all kind of rolling up their sleeves and saying, all the finances are on the table. A lot of it is very similar to mediation in that we're all trying to get to a conclusion together. It's just the difference is that in collaborative, there are advocates on both sides. So when I have a mediation case in which somebody is just a much better talker or much more confident or da da da, right? Like they're a good candidate for let's collab instead. Let's
Hmm.
get each side their own proponent.
Right. And one thing to note, everybody, is that if you do collaborative and for some reason it breaks down, I've had that happen with a few of my clients who are dealing with high conflict spouses. Your collaborative attorney cannot represent you in court, cannot be your litigator, even if they do litigation because they signed something saying they won't go to court, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's important. I do think, I've said to clients, Sharon, and it has worked in some cases, that sometimes getting that whole team in the room almost like shames a bad actor type, could be whoever the bad actor is who's not reasonable, because it's kind of like, okay, I'm really going to look like the jerk if right? If they're saying, well, a judge would say this much for support, right? And, because sometimes some of my clients are divorcing people who are saying, I'm not paying any support, even though they have been the breadwinning, you know, spouse. So, thank you for that. And then, of course, the mediator drafts up the agreement, right? And
Yes. If
in
you,
mediation.
yeah, if there are mediators who are not attorneys.
That's true. Yes.
So if it's the financial planner who's a mediator, they might send me over their notes and then I do the drafting, even though I wasn't the first mediator in the
Got it.
matter.
Got it. So, let's talk about the emotional and energetic part of divorce, right? Because when I was posting about our event, I thought, you know what? Self care is a strategic move in divorce because an attorney told me years ago there are three parts of divorce, Amy: legal, financial, and emotional is the most important part. Because if you don't have that under control, right, you could make crazy decisions. I look back, I made decisions I regret. It's one of the reasons I became a coach, so I didn't have anybody to really talk to about it. So I'm wondering, what role do you think self care plays in you being strategic about getting what you want in your divorce?
It's such a great insight, Amy. I love it. Here's the thing. I think that a lot of the stressors in divorce, they come from outside, they come from all of the other reasons, but they also come from inside. If we're beating ourselves up, if we're scared of every breath we take, if we put ourselves into kind of that fight or flight or freeze panic headset, we're definitely making wrong decisions or shouting things we wish we didn't say or running out of a room that we really need to be in to hear what's going to be said. Right. So I totally agree with you. The more we can bring in centering ourselves and taking care of ourselves and preparing ourselves and staying calm, it changes the whole energy of what you're able to do and let the other person be the one who overreacts.
Right.
Right? Like if there has to be drama in the room, let it not be me.
Exactly. Hey, I think that's a great plan, Sharon. So, how do you bring some of this into your holistic divorce practice, do you think?
So, as you know, and as I'm very proud, frankly, I finished my Reiki mastership certification. But even before I got to that level, and Reiki is a practice in understanding that there is a universal positive life force that we are all available to tap into. It's just out there, and you can believe that it's strong, you can believe that but there's absolutely a force to all life. And sometimes when things are hot in a mediation room, I need do nothing more than focus on my breath and bring the energy back down into a calmer space in the room, and people change how they're talking to each other. Now, we
Mm,
can say it's because I hit the invisible pause button. We can say because there actually is some kind of universal energy helping heal. Whatever it is, what I know is this. Every time I start by stilling my breath, and remembering that the room is part of the whole world and that this moment is just one moment, it helps the room. So just, it's small, but it's huge
mm-hmm,
in how it can change. And I ask my clients, the ones who want to practice breathing exercises, to practice visualizing in advance what room they're going to be in and how they're going to be in that room. And it really helps keep people's perspective on the fact that this is a moment. It's a challenging moment. It's a scary moment. It's the edge of a cliff kind of moment, but it actually is not life and death.
mm-hmm.
And anything we say in this room, in this negotiation, until both parties agree to it, until both parties sign it and a judge has approved it, it isn't even true. It's just a thought. It's just a sentence. It's okay, right?
That's great. That takes the pressure off, right? I mean, I'm wondering, Sharon, what do you think are the biggest emotional triggers for women in particular? I mean, fear is so powerful, right? As a divorce coach, I meet with women who deep down know they want a divorce. There are egregious things that have happened, perhaps, but they're scared. They're so scared that they are going to be that proverbial woman eating cat food, living out of a cardboard box that, this image conjured up in their mind. What do you encounter?
Definitely fear, definitely. Um, there's a lot of times that the anger is about what I think I was promised, what I thought I was going to get, what
Mm,
I expected to see from women. From men, the anger and I hate to generalize, but it's weird when men think that they are going to be financially is when they tend to get the most angry. I think women tend to get angry or scared about the emotional component of the three. People are going to think less of me. What is my mother going to say? How am I going to show up at these events now? Right? That, like, who am I without this title?
Hmm.
And the men tend to like be calm and strong and da 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 da. And I've seen men break into tears when it came down to, this is how much you're going to have to pay, or this is how much the little amount of alimony you man are going to be actually receiving, which it's terrible.
That does not surprise me one bit, Sharon, from the stories I hear, right? And there's a saying, Eva Gabor said it, you never know a man until you divorce him, right? And so I think
I've never heard that.
I say to clients, you never know a man until you start talking about money and how much he's going to have to pay you. And, I don't know if it's something we're seeing in our society today, but I am seeing more than ever men in these situations who are showing up and saying, I'm not paying any alimony, like just, declaring it as if they can decide that when they've been married for 25 years and she gave up her career and he's climbed the corporate ladder because she's taken care of 4 children. And, I'm wondering, I'm sure you must encounter this as you're saying, how do you handle the man who's freaking out about paying?
Well, it's so nice that there are laws in place that I don't have to have an opinion at all. All I have to do is talk about why the statutes say what they do,
Right.
right? it's it, I understand why you don't want to. I completely understand why you feel that wouldn't be fair to you. I'm sure it's very upsetting to you. Here's how the statutes became what they say. Here's why a judge will incorporate the statutes. And I frequently have encouraged people to go talk to a litigator and come back to me if I'm lying, if I'm right, right? So
Hmm.
but that's the truth is everybody thinks they're going to have to do something terrible. The law isn't going to make anybody eat cat food. It's not going to make anybody live, right? And it's not going to make anybody stay married to somebody who's wrong for them.
Hmm.
There's statutes in place. There are decades of judges' decisions in place. And it all trends towards more and more reasonable.
Hmm. I'm curious because a litigator told me over the past year, a few actually, have said that alimony is not what it used to be, that courts and judges are expecting women to go back to work sooner, to earn more. Lifetime alimony is a thing of the past. And I'm wondering, is that obviously trickling down to mediated and collaborative settlements as well?
Yeah. So yes, the trend in terms of spousal support has gotten away from looking for somebody who's been out of the workforce for 10 years to stay out of the workforce, right?
Hmm.
And sidebar, I don't think it's healthy for people of
Right,
either gender to stay out of the workforce when they don't have to.
right.
Um, but in terms of it working its way into the mediation and collaboration rooms, this is what's part of what's amazing to me is when we step away from positional battering between parties and we look at the overall picture, both sides tend to get more generous than a judge would require.
Mm,
As soon as
interesting.
one side starts to see the bigger picture and soften, you see it right because they were each other's person,
Hmm.
right? They know each other's energies. They know each other's when someone's being difficult for the purpose of being difficult and when they're like hearing the bigger picture and hearing the whole story. And a lot of times all we have to do is have a conversation about why the person is saying what they're saying. I did a great, I'll call it, I'm sorry, but I'll call it a great divorce. And I'll tell you the part of why is because I got so many letters afterwards from the ex-wife telling me how much better their lives are from the
Wow.
divorce. And it began with he kept thinking that if they sell the marital home, their children will have no stability. And she kept thinking that if they don't sell the marital home and continue to have debt, their children will have no stability. So all they were saying was sell, don't sell.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the point where we got to talk about the underlying meaning for each of them, which was only about the same thing. They both wanted the same thing for their children.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we got to that understanding, then we were able to restructure how long he's going to stay in the house and how he's going to pay her out and all the other parts that like we suddenly just walked away from the position each of them was holding to get to the meaning.
Interesting. Do you think that more people are doing mediated divorce and collaborative divorce than litigation these
No,
days?
no.
No.
No, I had to go to court for something. I was doing a calendar call for a colleague. You couldn't get in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
The calendar call for family law on a regular Thursday morning was in the hallway for all of these litigated cases. And what I when you're there for a litigated case, when your attorney is there for a litigated case, they could be in the courthouse for 2 hours before they get 1 minute in front of a judge. And you're
Mm-hmm.
getting billed for that time before anything of substance happens. And that 1 minute in front of a judge might be for something as simple as the other attorney refused to answer my question by Tuesday. I want the party held in contempt. No, we'll give them another 4 weeks. Thank you, Your Honor. Goodbye. Like it's crazy, in my opinion, what
Mm-hmm.
can happen. And no, I think it's crowded and I think that it's a lucrative field so that it draws more people towards it. I wish that it went the other way.
Right, exactly. Well, I think there is more education, certainly in Connecticut. The CCND, right? Connecticut
Yeah,
Council on
great group.
Non-Adversarial Divorce. And I know Rosemarie Ferrante, who runs that. So, I think it's great when it's possible. Like we said, what drives me crazy, I say so often, is when I'll see women post in a Facebook group, I need a shark attorney right away, right? And I always answer, please don't rush out and hire an attorney. Educate yourself about the choices of the processes you can choose from. Get your ducks in a row. And I think I'm trying to get that word out there in any way I can. There was an article, this Greenwich girl kind of Instagram and site ran an article where they did a Q&A with me about this that said before you hire an attorney, talk to a coach, or someone. So I think it's important for people to know what's out there. Um, what are, some of the emotional, patterns you see for people, I guess women in particular that you help with and you think a holistic divorce helps with? I mean, you talked a little bit about, mitigating some of these feelings, right?
I had an appointment this afternoon with a woman who her divorce was final a little over 2 years ago, and she came back today to work on her estate plan for her children.
Hmm.
And when I first met her, she had no image of herself outside of the budget she was living under in their married life with those two kids. And we're barely making ends meet in this house with the four of us here together and with both of us working together. Clearly there's no hope for me. If this marriage ends, I can't imagine what will become of me. We went through the process. Obviously, she didn't wind up with nothing, right? We did the work. She walked in today. I almost didn't recognize her. She's
Wow.
so happy. She's living in her own condo. She's one person in a three-bedroom condo. She says, it's too big for me, but I love it. She's working more hours. She lost weight. Her husband, her ex-husband, is getting remarried. I said, how do you feel about that? She said, he's somebody else's problem.
That's the quote of the night, right, ladies?
And she said, I would never marry again. I got my life back.
Mm.
It's the same lady, right? It's like,
We're seeing some applause here. And that was exactly the angle of my Newsweek story, is that women who have been through some of these marriages and divorces are like, no way. Treasure my peace. And I do think there's a spiritual journey. I think more of them are opening up to, dealing with past trauma, maybe healing, going to places that restore you, like we were talking about the Omega Institute before we hopped on tonight, talking to intuitive healers. I have a good friend who does that, who has helped many women, and I've sent clients to. Do you see that trend where, did this woman embark on some of that as well? Reiki?
I honestly don't know what path she chose after she got out. But yeah,
Hmm.
no, I totally agree with you. I think that the more people are able to take this huge pivot in their lives and re-examine who am I? How did I get here? What choices would I do differently if I had this to do over? Guess what? I have this to do over. And it could be a spiritual path. It could be a physical, like becoming more athletic. It can be all different directions. But I totally think you're right that the piece that matters is somebody finding who they want themselves to be.
Hmm.
And that's the most rewarding journey there is.
Right. And I think it's the most rewarding for us, in the work we do, right? I just had recently a client who had a small child, and she went and bought her own first house, and she sent me a picture, and she was just so excited. And I felt like, wow, I'm so happy she wanted to share that with me, right? And a woman, I usually don't talk to people in public, unless they talk to me. And she came rushing up to me on the main street in my town, gave me a hug. I'm so happy now. Thank you. Hiring you was the best thing I did, and da da da. And I love to see that, right? And that's really what we want for people. Sharon, before we open it up for questions, why don't you tell everybody about your book? Because I think that's super exciting.
Thank you. I'm talking to publishers. It doesn't fully exist yet, other than I've written the heck out of it. And I just want it's called How to Love Your Divorce. It's about loving your divorce. And it's exactly what you just this moment are describing, Amy, right? How happy are those clients of yours that they're out of the wrong relationship and in their own lives? And that's the whole point. It's the whole thing I say throughout the book. The book, as written, is here's what divorce is, here's how it was created, here's what it's supposed to do, here's the difference between litigation, mediation, a GAL versus an AMC, that kind of like basic information
Hmm.
people need to know to be educated and empowered. Second section is here's how holistic divorce attacks those things. Here's how you take this amazing opportunity in your life, see it as that, embrace it as that, and grow from it. And then there's this little bonus section at the end that are guided meditations
Hmm.
directly for picturing oneself going into the conference room and knowing how you're going to be in the conference room, going into your kid's kindergarten classroom knowing that the ex-husband is going to be there and how you're going to be fine and happy and joyous because it's your kid's first day of kindergarten and those kinds of things. That's the point. The whole journey is to go from where I don't want to be to where I absolutely should be.
Absolutely. And I love that. Divorce meditations, ladies. I haven't heard of that before. I'm going to pop up Sharon's information before we open it up to questions. This is her. She has offices in Norwalk and Monroe, Connecticut. But, we have people on from all over. And I know that your tips and your insights tonight were, um, you know, useful and helpful for everybody. A lot of I am a divorce coach, and I have clients nationally. I do one-on-one coaching, and I have a proactive playbook for divorce that kind of walks women through the process. And I created spreadsheets so you can kind of map out your budget and keep track of all the documents that you're gathering. And I have a full video course called Divorce Decoded that also walks you through the process, because like we're talking about tonight, Sharon, I really thought, wow, there was so much I didn't know, and I wanted to put it all in one place for women. So sometimes I have women who are thinking about leaving, and they'll watch a module of the course like here and there in private, it's like a muscle they're building, right? So then, and I lay out all the, mediation collaborative. And a lot of people think litigation is can be a wonderful thing. I get to tell my story and it's this dramatic moment like we see on TV. And you and I know only 5% of cases have that, moment where you actually get to, go to trial, and you don't want the bill that comes with
Right,
that.
right.
Right. So I want to open it up for questions from anybody. I I had got a couple, hold on, that people sent me privately. Oh, Jonna. Okay. Go ahead and unmute, Jonna.
Yeah, hi. Well, first off, thank you so much. That was really informative. Great questions and great um, information there. I had one follow-up question. One thing that was very helpful for me is how you broke down all the different professionals in this field. And I would love to have a resource for my own education as well and understanding to reference. Like, you talked about lawyers, you talked about mediators, you talked about, I was curious to know if you have a kind of a glossary of those terms per se. Does that make sense?
A glossary of the terms of the professionals. Is that the question?
Yeah, because I'm thinking for the sake of, sometimes you maybe don't know who's the person that you should be getting in contact with, or because I feel like you had a list there of about 4 or 5 different professionals that are in this field, but I think I got lost in who is the right person to help you with this sort of scenario. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. I love the question, Jonna. Thank you. No, I don't have a glossary of them. However, that is a section in one of the chapters in my book, and I'm wondering if I can, or if I should, I can go find it and adjust it for a blog and post it on my blog,
Yeah.
or send it to Amy for her to
Yeah,
post.
sure.
But yeah, that's a great, thank you very much. Yes, I'll steal your idea. I'll write a glossary. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
I appreciate it.
Because
Thank you.
Jonna, tell everyone what you do. I mean,
So, so I'm a loan officer, so
okay.
I help people finance homes, and I especially have been really drawn to Amy's work, and Sharon, I was really happy to hear about your work today, particularly because I've encountered a lot of women who are about to go through divorce or are in the process of it, and I have found that they oftentimes don't have the financial skills or literacy yet to help them transition into the next stage of their life without their partner, who at the time primarily was the breadwinner, primarily was handling finances. So this for me has become very something that I'm passionate about, is connecting with women who need that portion of the education, that portion of the process.
Right.
That's
Because
excellent.
it is very overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think that's
great. Thank
important.
you.
Someone's asking which classes do you recommend at Omega? I would say anything, right? Anything is great there. And I think their prices are really reasonable, for like $1,100, and you can stay in a tent, but I'm assuming you want like one of the rooms. You give all different options. It's a full weekend where you get free like meditation and yoga, right, Sharon?
Yep, and it's beautiful property and
Yes.
so inclusive. They also have an option where you pay for whatever workshop you're going to and go stay wherever you want to
Right.
stay. And the Rhinebeck town right nearby is also beautiful and a fun place to pop in and
Yes.
out of. It's
Absolutely.
gorgeous
Um,
up there.
and the next question, we kind of have two similar, tips on self-care. My anxieties to the roof in court. And someone else is saying, what do you recommend when it's difficult to remember to center yourself when the drama in divorce comes up with a narcissistic ex? And sometimes these types are trying to poke you. They want you to lose your cool, right, Sharon?
Oh, 100%. That's their payoff,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes I feel like just knowing that makes it easier to stay calm, right? If what they're looking for is my misery, look at all my joy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good motivator. It can be a good motivator if you see it that way. Sometimes what I recommend people do is if they have a mantra in advance or they have an idea in advance of what the thing is that centers them. So one thing, one example I use is the word boots. If you know once you're done with this divorce, the first thing you're doing is going on a great hiking vacation with your friends, you start thinking about the boots you're going to wear, right? And when you walk into the courtroom, the conference room, wherever it is, the first thing you do is you sit down and in that moment, you write the word boots on a piece of paper. You don't bring the word already written with you. As soon as you're in the room, you put it down, you hold it in your hand. And there it is, reminding you this is a moment. This is a thing that's happening around me. It's not my life.
Mhm. I think that's great advice. And I tell clients often, if you have to write a mantra in your phone in the notes, like, or it's a song you listen to, I think it's really important because you often want to say to yourself, like, this is just a moment, or, if that's the case, may win this battle, but, I'm winning the war. I'm not saying it's a war. I'm just saying, sometimes it seems like the fight over him picking the kids up an hour early is everything at that moment. But when you are able to kind of smile to yourself, like, I'm not engaging, right? I'm not going for this bait. A lot of times it can be bait. And I think that's really important. Christine says, I second that question. The communication is constant. Every time my phone dings, it's a mini anxiety attack, right? And I think there are boundaries you can put in place, right? Look, when your ex has the children, we're all a little bit on it, you want to make sure you're not silencing your phone, but there are other times that I think you can definitely have boundaries using our family wizard, right? Not
Yep.
reading emails at another time if it's not child related and emergency, right? Would you agree, Sharon?
100%. I was going to mention our family wizard in response to that. And also, again, it's the payoff. Imagine how easy it is if I feel like pushing your buttons and knowing you're going to have a crappy day by me just hitting send. What's going to stop me from doing it all the time? Right? Like, don't feed it, don't pay it, don't, in my opinion. But Amy's absolutely correct. There are times where the truth is we have to listen to this person because our child or something at almost equally as important is on the line. Yes. But the thing about the like getting into the fight, the nitty gritty, especially the example you use of the 1 hour pickup, guess what? 2 days from now, 2 months after the divorce is over, he's not going to want that extra hour anyway because it's interfering with his own narcissistic agenda. Let it go. I
It's
don't
so
know.
funny you say
I'm
that,
just
right?
guessing.
Yeah, it's experience, right? Because I have many women who are devastated at 50-50 custody, perhaps. And in Connecticut, we're a state that, kind of favors that. And I often say, listen, a lot of times it's going to end up where, he's calling you, he wants to go somewhere with a girlfriend. Can you take the kids? Yes, you're always going to want your kids more. And it over time, right? You'll see what happens, right? So often. Um, I had a question somebody sent me privately. Any tips on how to convince a narcissist who has started litigation to then do like collaborative or mediation? I often say, if my client is in that situation and then these guys care so much about money, like, look, let's save money, right?
Yep, it's a great one. The other one is how smart they are, right? Like just what do you think is the right thing to do? Who cares? Play the role, right?
Yeah,
We're
right. It's
almost done playing that role. What do you think is the right thing to do? How much should I spend on litigation? Right? Just who cares?
mhm.
And one of my favorites is this literal billionaire, multi-billionaire, and I wound up being the two who negotiated with his lawyer in the room, with my client in the room, but he wanted to take me on because he's so important. He's so impressive. And not only did she get everything beyond everything she and I had talked about she wanted, my favorite was he now pays for her to have a personal assistant for the rest of her life because his personal assistant, who they shared, is who his next wedding is going to be with. So, so we were
Wow.
And we're just talking, we're just having a conversation. How would you handle it if it was your situation, right? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
narcissists love thinking they're the smartest person in the room. All you have to do is let them,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes they have to feel like they won, right? Like I'll tell clients, you can pretend you want the grill or the fancy boat or whatever when you really don't, and then, concede it, right? In the negotiations, because they always have to feel like, I often tell clients in litigation that, you know, a lump sum is a great thing because then you're not reliant on that person who wants control over you, you know, being the puppeteer all the time. Someone saying, thank you so much for hosting, Sharon. Thank you for the insight. As I'm having conversations with women who are going through divorce, and I explain the importance of a more holistic divorce and having a divorce coach, what's an example or two of the repercussions of emotional impulsivity? I ask this because it's one thing to say it happens, but real world examples are always more impactful. That's true. That's a good question. Do you want to go first, Sharon? Or
Sure, it's what we always see, right? You see them shut down. You see them stop engaging. So if we'll use the 1 hour pickup time as a good example. If you're too upset over the 1 hour, you're not going to hear him saying, because I want to do their homework, right? You're going to miss the point. And then all we have left is the fight itself. And if you are able to just stay with it, stay calm with it, then you get to move past it. Oh, you want to do their homework with them? Fine. That means you also have to do their dinner and have their backpacks ready, because that's what I would be doing with that hour. Right? Like
mm-hmm,
no puzzle is ever solved, I don't think, through emotion,
mm-hmm.
through heightened emotion. So,
Right. It clouds our reason, right? And I look back, I made some mistakes in mine. And I would say that, when I use the example of women I see going into these Facebook groups saying, I need a shark attorney, and they immediately go hire a litigator and things start escalating. And pretty soon that attorney's like, and you need a forensic accountant for 20 more thousand. And then you need somebody else you need a parenting coordinator for this. It can start to mushroom up, and pretty soon you are knee deep in this. I have had women come to me 100,000, 200,000 into a divorce, and their attorney is not returning their call. They don't know what the strategy is, and they're just being told to fork over more money, right? And so it can take on a life of its own. So rushing in is really not the right thing. You want to educate yourself first. And I think that, to the point I made at the beginning, you have to be in the driver's seat. You can't just hire an attorney and think, all right, I'll put my feet up and they're going to handle everything. You know your situation better than anybody. Oftentimes I'm helping clients like, okay, let's put a one pager together on this for your attorney because we know they're handling so many cases. If you want to make this point, make it easy for them. Here are the bullet points of why you want this type of visitation or whatever it is. So I think that rushing, it may, give you adrenaline in that moment and you think you've got somebody who's going to fight it out for you. But uh, I hate to say this about some attorneys, right, Sharon? But, sometimes it just doesn't turn out that way.
no, I think right, the saying yes to a shark and a shark's agenda is just acting from fear. I
Hmm.
want somebody else to be the bulldog for me. I need protection. And they're not necessarily protecting you.
Well said. Very well said. Right. And I encourage everyone, to read this book because we put down here, Know the Abuser's Playbook, because it talks about how, the worst of the worst can manipulate the system. And it is litigation, right? They start the process, and then, pretty soon you have to keep paying more and more retainers. And sometimes you feel like nothing has even been accomplished and you're still paying a retainer. So I hope that answers your question. Real world examples. I can tell you, just this week, I was speaking to a client who, feels like she made the wrong choice with an attorney. She's not getting any response, and we're talking about the pros and cons of finding someone else, right? So I think that's important.
It does.
All right.
It's frightening.
Yeah. I think that's all the questions we have here. Anything you want to add, Sharon, that I forgot? I think this was really helpful for
This was
women.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful forum. Thank you. And it really feels good to get to talk about this kind of work. That's like I just feel like there's a lot of noise that makes divorce worse and therefore makes marriages worse in the world, right? If you're afraid of divorce, you stay in a bad marriage.
Right.
So thank you for empowering people and thank you
Oh,
for
thank you.
inviting me.
I think you should do some of those divorce meditations on social media. They will be they will probably go viral.
It's a great idea. I'm adding it to the glossary
Yes,
idea.
add that to your list. But thanks everybody for being here. And if you're watching on recording, well, I'm glad you did. And please reach out to Sharon if she can help you and look out for her book. All right.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you so much. Good night,
Thank you both
everybody.
so much.
Good night.